The funny thing about comebacks is that they're never just about one person. They're stress tests for the entire system. So, when people ask, are Johnny Depp and Hollywood rebuilding their relationship? The better question might be, who's actually holding the steering wheel? An industry that runs on risk math, or an actor who learned to play by his own rules? Not long ago, that question felt ridiculous. Doors were closing, headlines were roaring, and insiders whispered the same verdict. Hollywood was moving on. Then, almost without warning, the picture started changing. Not through a grand speech or a press tour confession, but through a series of moves that looked small from far away and seismic up close. First, a festival premiere that turned into a Rorschach test, then a luxury brand deal loud enough to rattle boardrooms, then a studio thriller with names that make phones light up. Piece by piece, the story shifted from done to wait a second. Before we jump into the new signals, it helps to rewind the tape, briefly. After years of private issues turning painfully public, the industry's temperature dropped. Jobs disappeared, calls stopped coming. The machine that once treated him like gravity turned the other way. And yet, that wasn't the end of the story. It was the start of a strategy. The first real tell came in a place that loves myth-making, Cannes. Depp showed up not as the swaggering star of a popcorn epic, but as a quiet, powdered king in a French-language period piece. The moment wasn't about box office, it was about optics, posture, and control. Cameras flashed, the film opened the festival, and the actor standing in front of a wall of microphones said something that cut through the noise. He didn't have a need for Hollywood. It wasn't a tantrum, it was a boundary. A reminder that the gate doesn't always sit in Los Angeles. So what was the play? If you strip away the headlines, the move reads like this. Step outside the US studio system, reduce the volume, rebuild the image in Europe, and avoid the trap of a chest-thumping I'm back. No leaked secret meetings, no forced nostalgia, just a different lane. Let audiences look, not argue. The reaction proved how polarized the room still was. Audiences applauded, pundits nitpicked, and critics split down the middle about the film itself. Some called the performance restrained to the point of ghostly. Others said the supporting role did exactly what it needed to do. Either way, the takeaway wasn't masterpiece or disaster. It was simpler. He can still draw eyeballs, and he's choosing when and where to do it. Now, about that ovation. Festival ovations can run long for reasons that have nothing to do with the next Monday's receipts. They're theater. Cannes is very good at theater. And while the applause made global headlines, the mixed reviews told a more complicated story. Box office didn't explode. Critics debated whether the performance was a flex or a whisper. For studio executives, those data points matter more than balcony cheers. The math is cruelly simple. If the audience turns curiosity into tickets, doors open. If not, caution lingers. But here's where the plot twists. While US studios hesitated, a different kind of partner made its move, one with a calculator of its own. Dior didn't just renew a contract, it planted a flag. A reported 3-year deal north of $20 million put Depp back on billboards and at the center of a blockbuster fragrance business. That price tag did more than pay a celebrity. It created a headline, a statement to every brand and buyer. Controversy might be loud, but commerce is louder. For financiers and producers, that number matters. It says there's still demand. It says images sell. It says the conversation isn't over. Think about what that means for an actor navigating a long road back. If brands, the most risk-averse players on earth, decide your face drives revenue, what do studios see? Not just a star with a past, a star with proof of purchase. Endorsements don't guarantee casting. They do, however, soften the will audiences show up question. And in this business, softening that question is gold. The next move sealed the intention. Not a streaming miniseries or a cameo in someone else's nostalgia tour, a film from behind the camera. Directing isn't a comeback trick, it's a control lever. Modì, 3 Days on the Wing of Madness, isn't designed as 4-quadrant popcorn. It's a period portrait of an artist in chaos, more festival corridor than multiplex hallway. And that's the point. By anchoring in Europe and stepping into the director's chair again, Depp reframed the story. Instead of asking for permission to return, he made work that didn't need it. Festivals screened it, European markets rolled it out, and suddenly, the he's not working narrative evaporated. Was it a crowd pleaser? Not the aim. Was it a signal to actors, producers, and distributors that the machine is running? Absolutely. And once you've reminded the town that you're both castable and employable, something interesting starts to happen. The phone rings, from places it hadn't in years. Day Drinker. Even the title sounds like a wink. A thriller directed by Mark Webb, pairing Depp with Penelope Cruz and adding a rising star to pull in younger audiences. Shot in Spain, backed by a US studio with distribution muscle. On paper, it's simple, a glossy genre play with a proven duo and a story built for trailers. In practice, it's a diagnostic. Can he carry a mainstream thriller again? Can the campaign invite the curious without relitigating the past? Can the opening weekend clear the bar that tells every agent in town, yes, this works? This is the kind of move that doesn't need to shout. It lets the craft do the talking. A role that isn't a caricature, a director with pop storytelling instincts, and just enough mystery to make what is this trend for a week. If the final cut lands, the movie becomes more than a credit. It becomes a permission slip. One audience is right, not executives. And then there's the ship in port, pirates. For years, chatter bounced between never again and maybe someday. The Game Changer wasn't a rumor blog, it was the franchise's producer. When Jerry Bruckheimer says he's spoken with Depp and believes he'd do a sixth film if the script hits, that's not noise. That's leverage. It signals that even as Disney explores reboots and spin-offs, the door to Sparrow isn't welded shut. There's still a version of this universe where his swagger matters, and the audience decides whether they want one more ride. Does that mean it's signed? No. It means the most influential voice on that franchise is publicly pro-Depp and thinks the right words on the page could close the gap. Hollywood hears that. Agents hear that. Most importantly, fans hear that, and fans move mountains. Let's be honest, a relationship rebuild isn't just hugs and press releases. It's flight plans, call sheets, and contracts with teeth. Some collaborators have described bumpy set experiences in the past. Those quotes travel fast, even when later clarified. What fixes that reputation isn't a statement. It's months of boring reliability. No late arrivals, no creative tug-of-war that spirals, no stories for the rumor mill. The fastest way to silence skepticism is to leave it with nothing to eat. There's also the optics puzzle. The Cannes line, no need for Hollywood, wasn't a door slam, it was a boundary. But boundaries get misread. The industry likes to feel chosen, not tolerated, so the trick is to project independence without signaling indifference. That's where the work helps. A sharp turn in a studio thriller says, I'm here because the story's good, not because I need a headline. Let's decode the 20 plus again. Luxury brands don't buy chaos. They buy predictability disguised as cool. If Dior's internal dashboard reads Johnny drives revenue, that translates to risk insurance for producers and distributors. You can't take a cologne contract to the bank, but you can point to it in a green light meeting. It reassures marketing that a face still opens doors. It gives international sales teams a star to anchor in territories where brand loyalty runs deep. In short, it makes a studio exec comfortable saying yes. And here's the hidden kicker. Ad campaigns deliver constant visibility without asking audiences to choose a side. A 30-second spot doesn't invite discourse, it invites desire. That's the safest oxygen any controversial figure can breathe. It keeps the image warm while the projects do the heavy lifting. Directing Modì wasn't an ego lap. It was a reset lever. When an actor sits in the director's chair, budgets and schedules become personal. You see exactly what producers worry about, how delays cost real money, how precision keeps crews paid. Do that job well, even on a modest, festival-skewing film. And the rumor that you can't be managed starts to sound silly. Film sets are small cities. If you run one without drama, the story spreads. So, are the pieces lining up? Yes, and they're doing it in the right order. First the optics, then the money, then the work. The next test, though, will be the most unforgiving one, a stateside release that has to move beyond curiosity and into momentum. Momentum isn't a premiere, it's a second weekend that doesn't collapse. It's a cinema score that says, we'd recommend this. It's soft-spoken interviews that feel human, not defensive. It's co-stars gushing about process instead of drama. It's a press junket where the movie wins. That's what turns maybe into book him. And in a delicious twist, the answer to whether the relationship is being rebuilt won't come from a headline or a courtroom or a standing ovation. It'll come from a box office graph and a calendar that fills up quietly. There are three. Path 1, the genre heater. If Day Drinker lands with audiences, tight runtime, clean hook, a twist that hits TikTok, the town will interpret it as proof that the mainstream lane is open. No 10-year plan, no franchise handcuffs, just a string of smart thrillers that remind people why he became a star in the first place. One solid hit becomes two, and suddenly, an awards-adjacent drama doesn't look risky. It looks inevitable. Path 2, the prestige pivot. Stay in Europe for one more auteur-driven project with a director who owns the fall festival circuit. Play against type? Use stillness as a weapon. The narrative flips from comeback noise to craft story, and by spring, the trades are running think pieces about restraint and reinvention. That momentum slides neatly into a high-profile supporting turn for a major director stateside. Less pressure, more presence. Path 3, the Sparrow question. If the script lands and the deal is right, A Pirate's Return, whether full-blooded or cleverly limited, would be the biggest single-day sentiment swing you can buy. Nostalgia isn't a strategy, but it is a multiplier. One trailer drop and global culture remembers how much fun it is to root for chaos when chaos stays on screen. Most comebacks beg. This one negotiated. The Europe First moves reduced noise. The Dior deal repriced the conversation. The director's chair reframed agency. And the studio thriller marks a measured re-entry. No capes, no wizards, no billion-dollar expectations. It's a ladder, not an elevator. That's why it's working. There's also the audience factor. Whether fans agreed with him, disagreed with him, or just got exhausted by the discourse, many still associate him with a certain cinematic mischief, an unpredictability that modern blockbusters often sand down. If the right filmmaker taps that energy without turning it into a caricature, the effect is rocket fuel. The trick is to aim it, not drown in it. If you're advising the team, a few phrases belong in storage. Comeback implies desperation. Chapter sounds like growth. Proved everyone wrong invites scorekeeping. Making the work I believe in closes the loop without starting a fight. The canned soundbite about not needing Hollywood did its job then. Now, the smarter emphasis is finding the right stories, which flatters the industry and centers the work. Words matter. In this town, they buy time. No one admits this on the record, but execs watch a handful of simple signals. On-time days during principal photography. How many reshoots are talent-driven versus director-driven? Press junket efficiency. Social listening heat that favors the movie over the man. And the one metric that never lies, second week drops. Dior's marketing will keep his Q score buoyant. The goal now is to let the work flatten the noise. If one or two projects play the way they should, the phone stops ringing with questions and starts ringing with offers. Audiences don't stay in the same mood forever. They tire of punishment arcs just as quickly as redemption arcs. What they love is story. Give them a sleek thriller with a good trailer, a weirdly lovable supporting character in an awards film, and maybe, just maybe, a familiar pirate swagger used sparingly, and the ecosystem recalibrates. People show up for fun, not homework. If the movies are fun, the rest becomes trivia. There's one scenario that could send the rebuild into the stratosphere, a performance that feels genuinely new. Not one more trip through eyeliner and eccentricity, but a stripped-down, dangerous calm. Less is more. Silence the thunders. If a director captures that, and the campaign sells that, then the conversation tilts from "can he?" to "no one else can do that." Whoa, and that's when Hollywood stops asking whether to rebuild the relationship and starts asking how soon it can stamp tickets. That's when the balance of power, wobbly since the controversies, stabilizes into a quiet truce. We're good as long as the work is good. This is the tightrope. Stay selective enough to look discerning, but visible enough to look employable. Keep the interviews human, not combative. Let co-stars talk first. Avoid the internet's favorite sport, feeding the discourse, and instead feed the one thing that cuts through any narrative: results. If the next trailer sparks curiosity and the movie delivers, the industry's collective memory will shorten faster than you think. Meanwhile, expect more brand work and European collaborations. That's not hedging, it's diversification. The Dior relationship keeps cash and visibility flowing regardless of opening weekend swings. European art films supply credibility and control. US studio thrillers supply reach. Together, they form a reputational tripod that's hard to knock over. Back to Pirates. If talks progress, expect a contract engineered to within an inch of its life. Behavioral morals, clauses standard in modern deals, schedules locked with military precision, and creative approvals clearly defined. If it's a cameo or a limited role, all the better. It hits nostalgia without handing the entire tentpole to a single actor. The marketing sell writes itself, and the global audience, starved for big screen fun that doesn't feel algorithmic, will show up out of pure muscle memory. If it doesn't happen, nothing breaks. The reboot path proceeds, and the rebuild continues via the other two lanes. Not "I'm back," not "they need me." The safer line, the smarter line, is this: I'm choosing stories I want to tell wherever they live. It makes Cannes make sense. It makes Modì make sense. It makes Daydrinker make sense. And if Pirates happens, it makes that too make sense. You're not chasing Hollywood's forgiveness. You're curating your lane. Hollywood loves that posture almost as much as it loves a hit. If the relationship truly rebuilds, we'll see signs that don't look flashy at all. Announcements drop without leaks. Insurance premiums stop being a conversation. Directors volunteer anecdotes about precision, not volatility. Box office math leans solid instead of iffy. And in Q4, a script lands on his desk from a prestige director who wants that very specific energy. Unpredictable, but controlled. That's when everyone realizes the question has been answered quietly, in calendar invites and wire transfers and wrap party toasts. So, are Johnny Depp and Hollywood rebuilding their relationship? The evidence says yes, deliberately, cautiously, and on terms that are more balanced than before. A festival statement told the world he didn't need Hollywood. A brand deal told Hollywood he still sells. A director's chair told peers he can run a set. A studio thriller tells audiences he still thrills. And a producer's quote tells fans their favorite pirate might not be done. Put those together, and you don't get a tabloid headline. You get a business case. But here's the twist. It might not be Hollywood rebuilding Johnny Depp. It might be Johnny Depp rebuilding the version of Hollywood he wants to work with, the kind that trusts a movie to do the talking, the kind that prefers results over rhetoric, the kind that remembers that no matter how loud the noise gets, stories will always be louder. And if the next story hits, the rebuild won't just be complete, it'll feel inevitable.